and welcome to another one of my occasional orienteering YouTube videos. I've recently found myself with a lot of free time on my hands, but rest assured, orienteers, my loss is your gain. So strap yourselves in for what I hope is going to be a mildly entertaining and educational video. So the idea for this video is a theory that I have, and I've done a little bit of research, and I think that it's a fairly solid one, which is that orienteers, when they run in the forest, essentially run at an anaerobic threshold intensity for the duration of their race. Obviously there's a lot of heart rate variability in orienteering, particularly related to differences in terrain, whether you're going uphill or downhill. If you make a mistake, your heart rate's going to go down obviously, and then it'll climb back up. But by and large, most orienteers, when they run around in the forest, have an average heart rate of between 167 and 172. And I found this to be the case by looking at my own Strava files, and here's a look at some Strava data from a Finnish orienteer. This is a pre-Eucla test run from 2019 that was a mass start at night. And there were quite a lot of first team runners here, so this was pretty intense. But you can see that the heart rate pretty much gets to anaerobic threshold and just stays there for the duration, apart from some downhill sections and mistakes, but after those it pretty much climbs back to that. So the theory that I'm going to be testing in this video and over the next 4 weeks is basically how much can I improve over this orienteering proxy that I've created, which is an uphill running time trial over a 4-week period, by doing a whole lot of threshold running. And threshold running, for those who don't know, is essentially the pace of running or intensity of running at which your lactate level in your blood steady states, and running any harder than that would cause you to accumulate large amounts of lactate. Running any slower than that means that you're not accumulating any lactate. So it's at that intensity, it's a very specific intensity at which your lactate curve begins to rise exponentially. So it's used a lot in the cycling world. There's a lot of focus on FTP in cycling, which is essentially your functional threshold power for 1 hour, which is just another name for lactate threshold or anaerobic threshold. And it's not so much used in running, and I think that's because, and it's not used very much in orienteering as well. I think a lot of orienteering training is based on running training wisdom, and there's a good reason for that. We are a running sport, obviously, but there are some differences in the way that orienteers and road runners in particular should train because of the differences in our sport. For example, during a 10k road race, you'd expect to have a higher heart rate above lactate threshold than in a equally timed orienteering event. For example, a 35-minute orienteering event or a 45-minute orienteering event, you wouldn't expect to have a heart rate as high, and that's borne out by the data, which shows that runners who are in a running race, like a fun run, have a higher heart rate than elite orienteers do during their events. So I think there's something to the fact that orienteers generally have a slightly lower heart rate than road runners. Therefore, there should perhaps be less emphasis on VO2 max work. For instance, 800 meters, 1000 meters, up to 1200 meter intervals done on the track. There should be more emphasis on threshold work, meaning intervals or steady state sessions done at threshold pace. And there should also be, because of the anaerobic part of, or strength requirements of orienteering, there should also be more emphasis on strength, explosive strength, as well as some short hill intervals, so maybe 30-second hill intervals. But in order to simplify this, I'm just going to be focusing on the next 4 weeks on threshold running, which I haven't been doing much of. My fitness level essentially now is baseline fitness, just nothing sharp. It's just I'm just fairly aerobically fit, but nothing special. So I'm going to be doing a lot of threshold sessions, basically 2 a week or 3 a week on average. I'm going to be doing a long run just to keep up the aerobic stuff, and I'm going to be a lot of my easy sessions, instead of running sessions, are going to be bike sessions, because my running, I haven't got a heap of kilometers in my legs, and I don't want to bash my legs up and get injured doing this. As well as that, I'm going to be doing a lot of functional training, like box jumps, a lot of plyometric stuff, to try and just give myself a bit more explosive strength. So that's the idea. The plan is on your screen now, and so what I'm going to do, I've already run the test track once, and it's a downhill mountain biking double black diamond track, which is about 1.87 kilometers long, has about 300 meters climb, and is a fairly good proxy for an orienteering physiological effort, in my opinion. Obviously, it doesn't have any downhill sections, but I think basically what's going to happen in this effort is I'm going to hit threshold heart rate or a little bit higher and just hold it, and that's what the data has borne out from my initial effort. And then after 4 weeks of training, I'm going to redo the effort and see how much I improve, if at all. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing for the next 4 weeks, and I'm going to be updating you on the way on how my training's going. Alright, so that's the plan. So if it sounds like I'm rambling off the top of my head, you are dead right, because I am. And I really don't, I can't say that I don't have the time, so that excuse is gone out the window, but I just don't want to plan anything out that would be more coherent. So over the next 4 weeks, I'm going to follow this plan to the letter, as long as my body holds up, and I'm going to be testing again in 4 weeks, and seeing how my body has adapted, and seeing if I can improve on the time of 14:29 for the first attempt, and I'll be wearing the same shoes, similar equipment, and the same watch, and hopefully we can improve. I think I should be able to get something in the region of, I don't know, 45-second reduction. I think that's a good 4-week effort. I think we can do that, and if this is a successful trial, then I'll definitely be doing a lot more threshold training in my future preparations for orienteering events, because it's something that I've really neglected, and I've basically done a lot of easy running and a lot of VO2 max or hard running, and nothing in the longer threshold region. So if this works, it's definitely something I will be putting in my training, and if you think it would benefit you, then maybe you should too. Alright, I'll see you in the next video.